Two words that every manager dreads. I'm pregnant. What do you do when your team member tells you that they are heading out on maternity leave? A lot of leaders actually struggle with knowing what to say, what the right words are, and how to actually handle this situation. And also, if you are a female and you are going back from maternity leave, the return can be really, really challenging. So in this week's episode of the 360 Leadership Podcast, I am joined by Donna Reilly of Donna Reilly People and Wellness. And today we are getting into everything from what to do, what not to do. And I share a story that I have never shared before that is actually, I can't even believe this happened. So you're going to have to listen to the podcast to find this one out. And Donna is giving you loads of practical, actionable tips. So you can check it out right now. Hope you enjoy. Today on the 360 Leadership Podcast, I am joined by the wonderful Donna Reilly, who is Director of Donna Reilly People and Wellness. Donna is an award-winning HR professional, leadership and mental health coach, and experienced facilitator with over 20 years working across multiple industries. Her mission in her company is to create positive people solutions through impactful wellbeing programs, coaching and development, and HR consultancies. And they help inspire focus on people with all their clients. So today we are going to be digging in specifically into women returning from maternity leave, as it's not a topic it's talked about often enough. So I'm delighted to introduce you to Donna today. Donna, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for that gorgeous introduction. Delighted to be here.
You're fabulous. So tell us a little bit about you and your company first, so our listeners understand.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. So yeah, we're Donna Reilly People and Wellness. We are 5.5 years old. And when I say we've got a core team of 5 employees and about 30 associates that work with us on an ad hoc, more regular basis to help us deliver some of our programs. And what we do is really focusing on people sustainability for our clients. So we're all B2B and we work with clients, primarily I'd say SMEs, but also some larger corporates as well, across 3 areas. So we design and deliver wellbeing programs across all areas of wellbeing. We also design and deliver people leader programs, do leadership coaching, and then finally we do a lot of HR consultancy, particularly for small businesses who would maybe started their business from a place of passion and now are like, I have a team, not too sure what to do. So it's really, when we say people sustainability, it's anything that can make the recruitment, onboarding journey and your time with the organization as positive as possible so that you stay and it's a sustainable journey. So that's a bit about the company. And from a personal perspective, given the topic that we're going to discuss today, which is females returning to the workplace. So I have 3 kids. So I've done this journey 3 times, 3 very different experiences, as has my colleague Laura, who works on this program with me. So we've 6 between us and we are very passionate about this area, shaped from our own experience, and really just want to make it as best possible experience for the companies that we work with.
So let's just jump right in there into maternity leave. So you mentioned there that obviously you're a mom as well and you have been through this. So I'd love to understand firstly a little bit more about your own experiences. You said you had 3 different types of experiences when you came back after maternity leave. Tell us the best one and then tell us the not so good one.
That's such an interesting one. 3 different experiences. I feel that, and I was only thinking about this earlier on today, you nearly forget, like my eldest is nearly 40 and I was like, I can't remember that experience. But I do now on reflection. Interestingly, on my first experience, the whole HR team, I worked in HR and financial services, went through a restructure. So I found out while on maternity leave that my role was going to completely shift and change, and have to reapply for several roles within the HR team, which was completely daunting. First maternity leave, hadn't a clue what I was doing. So I actually, on return, had no role. I didn't know what role. They were in the middle of a restructure and I hadn't got down to my team yet. So I went back, and never forget it, on the first day with nothing to do. Like I had no role. In fairness, communication was good, but I had no role. So that was really interesting. On the second maternity leave, went back to a brand new role. So completely different. Found out just before I went maternity leave that I was coming back to that role. But was a much more restructured return with a support there throughout, which was brilliant. And then on the third one, I didn't go back.
Wow. But the ultimate.
My most positive experience from the time I announced to the time that I left the organization, ironically, was my most positive experience. And it's all down to the manager. All down. And you'll hear me say that probably a lot today. Like the manager fundamentally shapes the return journey for the person who's returned from leave. 100%. And we've stats that back that up. We've conversations, we've experiences. It really is two things: communication and the manager.
And so I'd love to understand then, like, why should companies care?
That's a great question. If you think about it, right, at its most basic level, you have somebody with experience, with expertise, with knowledge of your structures, your systems, the role, how things are done, and they're returning. If you think about what you should do for them and the care you should give them, right, so pause there, versus a new hire. So if you look at an induction program, the time and effort that goes into recruitment, never mind, let's step back, job spec, attraction, recruitment, selection, contracts, onboarding, time, money investment, induction programs, the investment, the time and the attention that's given to new hires, financially, everything, versus returners is colossal. It's not on the same wavelength. But if you think about one that's brand new, have no idea of your company, your structure, your systems, your processes, anything, the other does. But yes, in our experience, for the majority of companies, there's less care, time, investment given to the people who have all that rich knowledge to bring back with them.
And why do you think that is?
I think it's, and some companies in fairness do a great job and really, really get it right. They brilliant programs with coaching, with manager training. Others, I feel there's two things. It's either just lack of knowledge that they may know they should, but really don't know what to do. Or they feel they're doing it because they've got some great policies in place. They offer enhanced maternity leave or reduced hours or whatever it is. They can have phenomenal policies. So I guess some of them a fear of what to do or not too sure what to do. The others feel they could be doing it, but aren't really doing it in the way that's going to have the impact that you want for the people who are returning. So I don't think anybody doesn't want to do it. I think it's lack of awareness, or they feel they are from what they're currently doing.
Yeah. And you're making me think there, like, I think the biggest gap in my experience, what I've seen, it's they're not thinking about the psychology and the mental state of that woman who's coming back to work. So they've got the programs and the policies. Yeah, we'll give her all the tactics, but what's missing is the mindset, the feeling, the reassurance. And the reason I say that is because I had a really bad experience, actually, with one of my kids. I'm not going to say which because I don't want anyone picking which role I was in or whatever. But one of my children, I was pregnant and I actually went out on, I actually had prenatal depression. So I was having panic attacks, anxiety. I had to go out of work actually after I was about 6 months pregnant. And I've since actually been diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm wondering, was it just overload? I'd say it probably was when I look back on it, but I really was not in a good mental health space. But up to that point, I was an unbelievable performer. I was a high performer. I would have run through the wall for the company. You know, I was performing at a high level. And then, so when I went out, that was fine. But when I came back, it was a huge deal because I had been out of work for a lot longer than usual. And obviously you're feeling vulnerable. You're feeling unsure. Do you still fit? Will you remember everything? You know, will you still be accepted? You're feeling all of those things. And I was a people pleaser. And I remember I wanted to go back on a 4-day week, which, I mean, however many years ago wasn't really a done thing. But I just knew I had to. And anyway, got the agreement to use parental leave. So I was kind of happy enough going back. But I'll never forget, unbelievable mistake. My manager, let's say I was due back next week and I was due to be off on the Friday. She rang me the week before I was due to go back to work to say that I couldn't have the Friday off anymore because I had to come in and do a mandatory corporate training. You know, one of these mandated ones that come down from HQ where it's tracked at the highest level and everyone's freaking out over attendance rate. And I said, is there no other date, like my childcare day? It was absolutely no. You have to be here on this day. Now, I was a nervous wreck. I actually get emotional thinking about it because I was very anxious going back after being away for so long. My safety net was knowing I didn't need to be there the first week on the Friday just to ease myself back in. And anyway, I had to go in that day. And I will never forget sitting in that training room. There was only me and one other person. And as we know in corporates, this mandated training, they didn't get their 100% participation rate, and this training ended up being extended by a month. So there was multiple sessions I could have attended after. And I think the reason I share that is because sometimes the moral of the story is that person was thinking short term in terms of, I need to keep my metrics on top of things. I've been told I have to do this, get this person in, the full department has to get everyone done. But what she wasn't considering was the long-term impact in terms of my willingness to say yes changed, how flexible I was changed. And it made me set boundaries a lot more. Whereas had I been given the flexibility and said, listen, well, you're supposed to do this training, but I have fought for you and I was supposed to have you back. You don't need to. I've stood up for you and you're coming back next week. I would have bent over. First of all, I would have felt really happy going back, and then I would have bent over backwards for that person forever because it would have meant so much. So I think my experience, leaders think way too short term and they're not thinking about long term. And it's not even the impact on the person. Yeah, it impacted me, but it actually impacted my performance, my relationship with that person, and the ripple effect that went on. So that's just, I wanted to share my experience because that was just a lesson in what not to do, in my opinion.
It's interesting what you said, that if they said to you, I've bent over backwards, I've done this, even if they said, let me go check if it has to be that day or if it can be another day, that could have been enough to go, okay, you hear me, you understand, and you're gone away to check. Like that could have been enough. But you know what, for that individual, without knowing them, what we find with the managers quite often is just a pure lack of awareness that, oh, wow, I never thought about that. The amount of times we do a manager, we have a program called Maternity, which is all about, obviously people return to the workplace, but it's very much focused on the individual, but also their manager. So we do a manager workshop and it's so fascinating. And we relay this back then through our coaching with the women or the people, because it covers all types of leave in certain clients. We relay it back to go, it's not that they don't care. They actually just don't always fully know. And when we do that training, the amount of comments of, wow, I didn't realize that's what's going on. Oh God, I'll remember that for next time. Or what's really interesting is they've such a fear of saying the wrong thing or offending or getting in trouble with HR, irritating the individual themselves, that sometimes they go, I'll just do nothing. I'll just say nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's only when you say, no, you don't have to be a GP, a psychologist, a mental health first aider, a coach. You don't have to know all the HR policies. Just listen. If you can just listen and keep that communication open, find out what's important for the individual and relay that back to the support that you have from a manager perspective, that's where we see that dial change. And it's interesting the amount of people that we go, now I get it. And then they start thinking about their own family circumstance and go, so that's how my partner may have felt when they went back to work. And I didn't even think about there were some of the feelings or trepidations or thoughts that they were having, which sometimes are catastrophizing things that may never happen. But it's when you're in that situation of preparing for a return, what you're feeling is so real for you. It has to be listened to. It has to be acknowledged. But it's just interesting when you say the managers. A lot of the times, like I've never met a manager through all the workshops we've done who does not want to support. It's just they're not too sure how to do it.
So this is what I was going to say. It's why I love that what you're doing in this particular program, because with that particular individual, absolutely, it was a complete lack of just not even thinking. It wasn't out of any meanness or anything. It just wasn't even considering the impact to the person. You know what I mean? So I think I love that you're bringing a lot of awareness to this. So for today, I'm always thinking about actionable tips. So if somebody's listening here now and they're a manager and they're like, oh my God, if someone coming back from maternity leave next week, or I have this person, what do you recommend? Like, what's your approach? What's some tips that my listeners can take away?
For managers, I fundamentally believe it needs to start the day that they announce that they're going to be going on leave. So the day they announce they're pregnant, they're adopting, they are going on carers leave, whatever it is, that's the day the support starts. So say like with our program for maternity, you're the females or individuals, it's predominantly females, they get a coaching session at that time to go, right, you've just announced it. How are you feeling? What support do you need before you ramp off? Like, so what support do you need And then they get a session while they're off, if they choose to. Some of them go, no, don't want to think about work, don't want to think about me. But some of them want that session while they're off, particularly just before they come back, to say, actually, how am I going to deal with this? This is a safe, confidential coaching space with myself or one of our colleagues to really discuss those deep fears, anxiousness, trepidations, and then they've had many coaching sessions they need on return. But for me, with the manager, has to start in that first day. It has to start the day they announce.
What should they be doing? Like, what's something practical? If somebody's listening and somebody says, okay, I'm pregnant. First of all, here's what's not to say.
Yeah.
What do we not say? Because we've all heard it.
Oh, so it's so funny. We always talk about managers can see it as a disaster or an opt-out period, right? So again, the one thing the manager shouldn't do is make it about them or the workload or the projects that won't get done or the manpower that they need to try and fill. That's for later. So I think in that initial conversation, it's a genuine congratulations. That's amazing. And that's kind of really it. I think if they feel that the individual wants to discuss, look, is there anything I can do to support you now? Is there anything you need from me? Is there anything that you need me to do in terms of communicating to stakeholders, to peers, whatever it might be? But to me, that's just a congratulations, even though your inner mind could be spiraling in terms of, what am I going to do? This is the worst news ever. They're not going to be around for this. And I had them earmarked for this. And how am I going to... That's not for that conversation. It's nearly masking those emotions and taking them away with you. And that's for you then to discuss with whoever you need to talk to. But for me, that's just, if you think about the person who's given that news to you, they're going to be slightly nervous potentially, particularly the first time, I feel. Or if it's, it's a busy period and I'm walking into my manager to say, hi, I'm actually in 6 months' time, I'm going to be gone for maybe up to a year. That can be nerve-wracking. So I think put yourself in their shoes and just a huge congratulations and delighted for you. And is there anything you need from me from now is enough.
Yeah. And I think, again, going back to the mindset of the person, it's the most vulnerable time in a woman's life. First of all, when you are pregnant, especially as you said, for the first time, you're so vulnerable. But actually telling your manager you're pregnant is also a major vulnerable moment because you don't know how it's going to be received. And I've been on the receiving end of shock. And then I've been on the receiving end, shock in oh my God, what are we going to do without you? And then I've been on the receiving end of congratulations. And it was just a wonderful celebrating with me. And I think the thing that leaders need to remember is it's all about, I think, a legacy you want to leave as a leader. You can be the good one who your people will remember as the one who celebrated that beautiful time in your life, which is only normally a handful if you're even lucky to have a couple of kids, maybe if you want them. Or you can be the leader that made you feel absolutely shit in the moment when you shared some good news. So for me, I always think about legacy and what legacy do you want to leave?
100%. And I would guarantee that for anybody listening to this who has had that discussion can 100% name the person who made that experience positive for them and the person who made it negative, if they've more than one or if they've only one, and why. Honestly, I think anybody that we talk about this with managers and talk about the experiences they've had, and we talk about the individuals and talk about the experiences they had, and every single person can name the good experience and why that was good and the not so good experience and why that wasn't so good. It's not something you forget. And you're so right. Think of the legacy. And even in the short term, think of this person returning. And as you said, the boundaries or the experience they're going to have for the next 6 months, whatever it might be, and then the experience when they return. It's to just make it as positive as possible because, again, it comes back to my point. If that person opted not to return, which a lot of people do. I think there was a stat where 80% considered not returning. Now they could have or not, but on return, there was something like 49% who took a lower level of responsibility in their role, or there's a percentage just don't return. So if you think about it, then that cost of rehire, the skills you've lost, the experience you've lost. So it just makes so much sense to think about those conversations and think about that journey for the individual and how you as their manager have such a critical role to keep that positive and keep them engaged through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've touched on obviously what the manager should do. What we're really hearing here is celebrate with them, make it positive, have your freak out behind in closed doors. The other just part of that before I move on to talking about the woman and how she can maybe prepare is, what are your thoughts on managers sharing the confidential news with their manager? So the reason I ask is because I remember telling one of my managers when I was really, really only a few weeks pregnant, and I specifically asked her not to, say anything, but she did. And again, it was the same person actually. That broke a lot of trust. Now, as a leader, I understand with HR processes, etc. But what do you think we can do there?
So I think for me, it comes down to personal values as well. Like if somebody asked me not to say something, I would do everything I could to keep that commitment to them. Because again, you're thinking about the journey with that individual, keeping the trust, etc. And from a HR background. So if the only time that I've seen that work where if you needed to, if you absolutely had to say it was your first time, and we see this a lot with new people leaders, where it could be the first time somebody's ever had that conversation with them, like, I have no idea what to do. If they go to HR, part and parcel of our role is confidentiality. So if a line manager comes to us and says, look, I've been asked not to say this, but I really am unsure what to do. Can I ask for your guidance? That doesn't go further. So I think that's the only time where I've seen that the confidentiality has been broken, where it's with a trusted HR partner because of lack of awareness on what to do from the manager's part, either inexperience or there's a nuance in the situation. And I feel that's okay if it's for the best interest of the individual. But I don't feel that as a manager, if somebody asks me to keep something confidential, that I can go to my colleagues, my peers, my own reporting line and to share that news.
Yeah.
But that's what HR there is for. If you're unsure, have any questions, that's our role, is to keep things confidential. And
okay, great advice. So tell HR. And I'm even thinking, like, I know what I had to do with one person before, because she was actually so critical. When she asked me to keep it confidential, I actually told her I couldn't, as in I brought her on board with me. I was transparent and I said, listen, we have this big thing coming up. It's headcount approval time. Is it okay if I tell such and such? I would never do this. Explained why. So then at least she knew, because I remember the time when my person told the other person, walking into the room and being congratulated when I was 5 weeks pregnant, when I wanted to keep it a secret. It broke a lot of trust. So I think be transparent, or else do as Donna shared and just talk to HR in confidence, which is cool. Or even thinking like companies should probably have some sort of transparency in their maternity leave policy, so at least people are aware, if you tell your manager, they may be obliged to disclose it or something. I think would be a good one.
And you're right. So say in that situation, if I'm a new people leader and I can say, listen, this is the first time I've gone through this, just make sure I'm doing everything right for you, I'm going to chat to HR. Is that okay? Or this is a particularly complex situation or whatever it might be. If the individual discloses, look, I'm pregnant, but I'm really ill and I'm not too sure, if you have to make reasonable accommodations or adjustments, that people leader can't potentially understand that or know what's within their control to approve or not. So again, where you can, bring the person on the journey with you, but I feel that the news should be contained to as minimal amount of people as possible until that person, the individual, is ready to disclose it themselves.
Yeah. Great advice. Love that. Okay, so we've covered the return to work from the employer perspective, and it's great to hear you have a great program to support people. So if people want to learn more about that, guys, I'll put Donna's website in the show notes. So now let's move on to, if I'm a woman and I'm returning from maternity leave, give us all the details on what we should be doing.
Where to start? There's so many things that can happen, right? So if you think about it, I could be feeling on edge. I could be feeling a wobble in terms of my identity, my value, confidence could be knocked. There's so many things that goes on. Or equally, none of that could bother me. I could just stroll back in. It's so interesting. We see lots of different variations where, from a coach perspective, people are like, I'm grand. I'm ready to go back. Yeah.
Let me back away from these nappies, toilet breaks.
Yeah. Or I'm actually a little bit indifferent. I know I can do a good job and I'm ready to rock back in and do that. Whereas I would say they're probably the minority. The majority is, not that I don't want to leave much out the latter. The majority would be, because a lot of what we do is focused on high potential female leaders or high potential female full stop, that they really are ambitious and they're career driven. So that sense of coming back to work could have a wobble for them, or they could start to question their value, their contribution, etc. And I guess there's a few things that would back that up. So if you think about it, if before I go on leave, I am absolutely needed, I'm called upon for my expertise, I'm creating value, I'm adding value that's reinforced daily, it's visible to me, and then I take a period of leave and then I come back, absolutely, you could question, how can I just step back in and step in where I left off and keep that level of value and expertise up there. And that can add a lot of pressure for women as well. The other thing is that things change. Like, we live in a world of rapid and constant change. So the organization will move when we're not there. And although what we can talk about opting in and opting out to communication, if I opt in to be communicated while on leave, I could be aware of the changes, but it's very different to be there while the changes are happening. So again, there could be that element of going, I want to catch up now. Or it could be that they're just coming back to an organization that doesn't have a lot of structure for returners, okay? It doesn't really know what they're doing. So there's so much going on. What we find is that what that means is some of the female returners feel that need to prove themselves, and that can be tricky because they don't need to. Like, if you think about, right, and Laura, who works with me, we talk about this all the time. If you think about the life skills you learn, we'll talk about maternity leave. You're learning resilience, adaptability,
all of the things,
management, juggling multiple priorities. If you think how rounded you're coming back after that type of leave, completely different skill set, not something you're going to learn on the job. But we talk about losing the edge, right? That I feel like I've lost my edge. You're like, no, you've actually gained so many more edges. Like, you are so much more well equipped in terms of resilience, adaptability, working under pressure. Like, it's phenomenal, right? But people just put that negative connotation. Oh, I've lost the lingo. I don't know how to articulate a conversation anymore. Go easy on yourself is the big thing. Don't feel like you need to come back 100 miles an hour. You absolutely have the permission to create your own return journey and decide how you reintegrate that. So if you're struggling, we would always say to people, go back to your value. That's not gone. What are those core strengths you have? What is that value that you add? What's that value that you bring? That's not lost. That's still there. And things like, listen strategically for the first few weeks. Figure out what's going on. You don't need to ask all the questions, but you have 2 ears that are well tuned into listening. Pick up what's going on and don't feel the need to prove yourself. It's all there already. You just need to remind yourself of all those phenomenal skills that you have. And now look at all the extra ones that you've added to your toolkit.
Love that.
But I do think that what women absolutely need, and again, it's something that we're really, really passionate about, is that coaching piece. And not a lot of organizations give that. Having access to a confidential, safe space to disclose the wobbles, the fears, the anxiety, the tiredness, the juggling, the things, even the basic as, my house is a tip, I'm trying to get to work, I'm barely struggling. Having somewhere to vocalize that's not somebody at home or who's managing your performance or a colleague, it's just phenomenal. So for any leader or anybody who has the approval to offer coaching to female returners, I would say it's going to be the best investment that you can give them, because that just gives them that space to offload, and not only offload, but to start develop some actions to try and help themselves.
Yeah.
That sense of direction, getting them back on the train and just pushing along their pathway.
Love what you said there about the going easy on yourself. And you mentioned as well the identity. I think that's the biggest thing, is like the identity shift, because you've left this high, potentially a high achiever, and then you're like full on mother mode, and now you're trying to figure out, who am I with both? And like, you cannot figure that out in a week or a month. It could take you 6 months. So I think it is really important that you give yourself grace, and remember as well, I think it's just a point in time in your life. You've got a whole career behind you, a whole career after you, and you're not alone. I think that's really important.
Can you think, or 2 quick things on that one, right? Can you think of the benefit of having a coach to help you through that? Like, even if it's an internal coach that could be separated from your current role, And the other part is you're 100% right. What we always say, it's a chapter. This is just a chapter in your journey.
Yeah.
There's loads that have come before and there's loads that will come after it. And it's just navigating that, but giving yourself permission to navigate it in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
Not
And I
to
think
feel.
the support is absolutely key, because I'm even thinking, like, if you're not lucky enough to have access to a coach, maybe you find a network, you find people who have just come back from maternity leave. You find a group of mommies that you actually talk about how you're feeling, because like, I think a lot of it is when we bottle things up and we think we're the only ones. Like, I see it in 360 all the time. We don't look at returners, but it's the same principle. Women in community talking about, you know, we're going to get onto this actually, like mom guilt, juggling it all. We feel like we're the only ones that are dropping balls, whereas when you're in a community with people, or you actually talk about it to people who are on the same journey as you just feel understood and you won't put yourself under so much pressure. So if anyone's listening, you're not alone. If you're feeling anyway, we've all freaking been there, and you deserve support for sure. So let's talk about mom guilt.
Yes.
Where do we begin? This is a big one.
It's a biggie. And it's not only mom guilt, it's work guilt, it's wife guilt, it's partner guilt, it's not having a clean house guilt, not being a good daughter guilt, not being a good friend guilt. It's all encompassing. So I actually think calling it mom guilt doesn't give it the credit for all of the different avenues that the guilt can land on. And this one resonates with me. This is my number one Achilles heel would be guilt. And I work so hard on it going, nope, absolutely not. I'm not feeling it. I actually think it's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you care. Really, for me, guilt. Not that if you didn't feel you're doing something wrong, I don't mean like that, but the fact that you're feeling guilt means that you care about work, or you care about your partner, your kids, whatever it might be. So I think, to me, take that first of all. Interesting when we talk about guilt and we kind of unpick it. People say, I feel guilty for not being able to give everything to work or everything to my kids. And then when we start to unpick it and go, well, where are you spending your time? Like, talk to me about this guilt. Ironically, all they're doing is spending time in work or with their kids. But what they're not doing is giving any time back to themselves.
Yes, 100%.
And you know, right, we talk a lot about work-life balance, which I don't think that balance exists. We do a lot of exercises on work-life balance, and we do these workshops, and we get people to do this exercise and map out their week currently as it is. And we give them 3 different color pencils, back to school mode. But we say one color for when you're working, and another color for you for personal time when you're not working. But with that, take a third color, and in that personal time, just shade in what color is just for you. What time is just for you, not for anybody else. Nobody dictating. You're not dropping people anywhere. You're not doing shopping for other people. You're not checking in on parents. You're not bringing dogs for a walk. Where is a time in your week that's just for you? And it's eye-opening.
Yeah.
But yet the guilt is there. But when you actually sit down and look at it, all of your time is being given to the people that you're feeling guilty about.
100%.
So it's so interesting. I feel that, again, it comes back to that permission. And I kind of don't love the word permission but I'm using it in ourselves. It's not seeking permission. It's actually seeking permission from ourselves to design the life that we want to live. I feel that there's a lot of expectations on us that we should be doing this, but we should be doing that. But it has to start with us. It has to start with that blank week and go, actually, where's the time for me? Because if I don't invest in myself, nobody's going to feel the benefit of anything that I do. So where fundamentally put yourself first, absolutely put yourself first, right? And I'm talking from a lot of learned experience here. But if you put yourself first and go, right, that's my box ticked, right? Who else do I want to give my time to? Not else who needs me. Everybody needs you, right? But where's your priority? So work may be non-negotiables, contracted hours, need to give that. But then where else are you assigning your time based on where you want to be with people that you need to be with, as opposed to what you feel you should do? There's a lot of shoulds, and that's guilt. I should be. Why am I?
I think it comes, just as you're saying that, like, I think it comes a lot from doing exactly what you said to map out in your week. I do similar exercise, do like a perfect day and stuff like that as well. But when you actually get what's happening with guilt is it's swirling in your head. because you're thinking, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. You put it down on paper, like Donna said, you're quickly going to see what the hell you actually feel guilty about, because it's a swirl of thoughts. But if you actually map it out, like I was literally only on a coaching call there with some of my executives in my group, and we were talking about energetic leaks. And we were talking about like how I prioritize, which is I have a whiteboard, I have my top 5 priorities, and I have decisions I need to make, and I have energetic leaks. But one of the ladies was on and she was saying she was finding it so difficult to juggle the workload at her level, and she has sick parents, and like I have elderly parents as well. And I asked her, I was like, okay, so on your priorities, is any of that stuff that you're actually doing for other people on your priority list? She's like, no. And I said, and what do you know, yourself in terms of your priorities, that on your priority list? No. So her top priorities were all work. So therefore, if you don't actually give yourself credit for the fact that you are bringing the kids to their activities, you are checking in on your parents, you are doing these things, of course you're going to feel guilty. So I think it's really important that you, like, I was even just saying there, literally only off the call, about thinking about you've got 100% energy to give, right, for your priorities to everybody. If you were to sit back and map out, how much of that time do I actually want to give to work? How much of that is it 20%? Is it 80% work? Is it 10% family? What? It doesn't matter what it is. And then you can just do the maths and actually say, right, and actually map out your time. Because I think so often, like I know for me, I have this thing in my head. Once I spend at least 10 to 15 minutes a day quality time with all of my children, which is not a lot of time, but sometimes that's all I have. Other days it's much longer, which might be a conversation at bedtime where I have no phone and I'm making eye contact, or I'm reading that bedtime story and I'm giving an extra hug and I'm doing it with intention. That to me alleviates my guilt, because I have set out to, that makes me feel like I'm giving, because you cannot be with everybody. You can't be all things to all people, right?
And it's so interesting when I'm listening to you chatting. There's a couple of things that, a comparison is the thief of joy, right? So we would live in a world of social media where we see, oh, they brought their kids to Emerald Park 4 times a summer. We haven't. Or they're doing this, or they're making such good use of the midterm and I'm not. And here I am sitting at my desk working. Stop. You see 5% of that person's world maximum through a screen. You've no idea of the 95% gone on in the background, right? So I think, don't compare, turn that energy inwards. So I love that you're talking about energy. Turn that inwards, give that attention back to yourself, not to look at what others do and what you should be doing, what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're talking about percentages, but it has to start and end with you. Has to. And the other thing we kind of touched on the last time was guilt loves to thrive in silence. If we keep it here, it will catastrophize, multiply. Having that network or group to be able to discuss it with is gold dust. Like we do a kind of facilitated discussion for returners and maternity. And once one person goes, I'm knackered, and someone goes, oh my, thank God, I'm really struggling with this. And then you go, so much better now. Not that you're feeling that way, but just that I'm not the only one. So there's something about, back to what you said, you're not alone, to talk about it to like-minded people who are experiencing that. Not only a sharing, but you're also probably going to get a lot of suggestions and tips as well. You're like, never thought about that. That's amazing. So I do feel with guilt, it has to start and end with you. You have to put yourself first, and you have to focus on what you need and who in your life needs you the most and who you want to give to. Okay. Because everyone will take it, right?
100%. I think as well, like I read a thing last week, I think it was, that women who work, obviously I see us as role models. I don't want my kids sitting at home in aprons baking cakes all day. Like if they want to, absolutely they can, but they don't have to. And I read a study that said that it's women who actually are leaders. I think it was women who are leaders who have younger kids. They will actually go on to be leaders as well, in terms of like working mothers is what I'm trying to say. Working mothers produce high achievers, whereas at home mommies, not that there's anything wrong with it. This study particularly said that it didn't. So it's just something to note that I read the other day.
I think at the end of the day, we all just want our kids to be happy.
Yeah.
And I do feel though, and there's loads of guilt that I'm working, I'm not at the school gate every day, but I'm sure equally that the moms that are at the school gate, they have their own guilt. So I just feel like
we kill each other. We kill ourselves, don't we?
Outwards, look inwards.
Yeah.
Do whatever works for you. And It's tricky. It is really, really tricky. And I think, as I said, that guilt one is constantly something that I struggle with. And I just try to go, stop.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
reality.
And
Have
like
I
you
had
mentioned balance as well, like, and I think, you know, I talk about balance a bit as well, but I think about it very differently. For me, balance is not about hours worked versus hours spent with family or yourself. For me, balance is a feeling. So you mentioned that earlier on as well. You'll know you're out of balance if you're not feeling good, right? And then it's just about tuning into yourself and being like, right, what doesn't feel good right now? A lot of the time you're out of balance, not because you're not giving to everybody else. It's because you're out of balance because you haven't given to yourself. So I think balance is just, work-life balance is absolutely possible, but it's your definition of what that means. It doesn't have to be 40 hours, 10 hours. It's about, you know, like I was away with my kids there. I had it all over Instagram. Well, not all over. I did like one post, had it on Instagram. We were away on kids, but there was loads of stuff going on in my business at the same time. I was on Slack for about 3 hours. There was loads of tech issues. I didn't post that on social media, but I was kind of working while I was away with my kids, and I did not feel guilty about it because I made sure that when I was with them, we were having fun. And when I was in work, doing work mode, I had to go in work mode. And I just think
and it is finding what works for you. And similarly, we've just come back after 3 weeks, and this is our third year to do this. And I've done it differently every year. The first week I worked for the week and took a couple of weeks off. Didn't really work because I came back to a load of unknown. Didn't help me, my sense of balance, my sense of anything. And then the last year I kind of said, no, I'm going to take all the time off. And then I was kind of hiding behind trees, voice note the team, hoping nobody saw me. So that there was no boundaries there. And it wasn't the only person that was left that I felt that was me. So this year, similar to you, I said, I'm going to do it different. I'm actually going to be online twice a week, each week. Now, I said I was going to do no online 1 week. So I kind of missed it around. So 4 times I was online in 3 weeks. And the kids were asleep, got up early, went online, got proper into work mode, did a couple of hours work. And it was the best balance that I've had of the 3 different times that I've tried it. I came back to a clean-ish inbox, knew what I was facing into. The kids were not impacted because they were in bed. My husband was off on a run or doing his own thing, but it was the best way for me in terms of balance. But that took me 3 years.
Yeah,
and
to figure it out.
To figure it out. So, and that's okay. Like, and it's not that I got it wrong the other 2 years. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So again, it's so individual. I would have always been a person going, can't work on holidays. That's how you get in downtime. That I was allergic to the thoughts of bringing a laptop on a holiday. Now I still am, but that was 3 weeks. So there was no way.
Business owner. I think it's different as well when you're a business owner. Like, I think leaders in companies, I think, should not be bringing their laptop or logging on if they do it right. But I think as business owners, it's a little bit different because it's yours, like, right?
Balance is individual.
That's it. Going back to everything we're saying. So, Oh my goodness, Donna, I could talk to you all day about this. But I am conscious of the time, and I know we have to let you go. So we've covered everything in terms of maternity. Everybody, you know, if you want anything maternity related, I popped Donna's details in the show notes. So Donna, I always ask my guests 2 questions. I hope my team briefed you. I'm sure they did. One is, what is the best piece of advice, or one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Oh, you know, I really had to think about this one. Then I was like, I don't think I've got any advice. And I said, of course I've got advice. It was one of those ones that threw me for a minute, and I was looking for something really inspiring. But I actually think the best piece of advice I've ever been given is, you can't be all things to all people. I'm a yes person, and my husband always goes out, he's like, stop saying yes. Why are you saying yes? And I've learned that I can't, if I allow myself to be yes and be all things to all people, they'll be delighted, but I'm running on empty. So what I've had to do over the last couple of years is to test the theory of, what am I sacrificing by saying yes here? What am I sacrificing personally by being all things to all people? What would a no feel like? How would that feel? How would that go down? And slowly try to remove myself from being all things to everybody. But the other thing was going, who do I actually want to be all things to? Who are those people that it's 100% yes, and it's a no-brainer because that's my core circle. So to me, that's probably the best piece of advice for two reasons, because it's made me stop and think, if I say yes to this, what am I sacrificing? And usually it's me time or family time, or who do I actually want to be the yes person for, and who actually I don't need to, because they've loads of other yes people, or they can do things themselves. So I think that's, and it comes back to the guilt, it comes back to the balance. It's all connected.
Love it. Love it. And what do success, balance, and happiness mean to you?
It's so interesting. We were literally just chatting about it. They're all interlinked. I feel I can't have one without the other. So I'll start with balance. If I have balance is for me time and energy and presence for the things that are important to me. That means I'm happier. So again, happiness is finding those joy moments and really being present. So things like you were saying, 15 minutes reading a book, but being present and going, this is joy. Or walking along, say, holding hands with my youngest and going, this is joy. Like, there's in 10 years' time, this won't happen. So it's just finding that joy, being present. I wouldn't have that if I didn't have the balance to give me that time. And then that's all success. So success for me is time for work, because I love what I do, time with family, and time for me.
So it's all about the time. Love that, Donna. Donna, thank you so much. That was such a lovely conversation. I think we're very aligned in a lot of ways that we think. It's been so lovely. Donna and I have been chatting for a long time, so it was great to actually get to catch up. So Donna, if anyone's listening and they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find us on all the platforms. So we are at Donna Reilly People and Wellness on Instagram, Facebook, website is Donna Reilly Wellness, and TikTok at Donna Reilly HR Wellness.
Amazing. Well, guys, we linked Donna's website in the show notes. You can catch her there. So, Donna, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all got some valuable tips. If you found the episode useful, I would really appreciate if you would share it with a female leader colleague or a manager who maybe needs to hear this too. And let's help us spread the word, because we really do need to support women who are going back from maternity leave. So until next time, thank you for joining. See you then. Same time, same place. Bye for now.